Akane Nishino is a 15-year-old schoolgirl who had the trauma of being kidnapped as a child. She used to be a famous actress, kidnapped by fans who have been stalking Nishino for a long time. Nishino was almost raped by her fans, and fortunately, Nishino survived. Since the kidnapping incident, Nishino put her actress career on hold for a while. Nishino's mother told the driver to always pick up and drop her off when Nishino was outside, including going to school. Then Nishino returned to her acting career during high school, although childhood trauma still haunts her. She had to keep her trauma hidden from others as if wearing a mask to cover her fears. Nishino was also famous at her school because she was an actress, and Nishino always had to maintain a good relationship with them. But there is only one person she is very difficult to approach, Minoru Kageno, the main character in this anime series. Every time they met, Minoru always forgot Nishino's name and changed her name to another name.
見た目はごくごく平凡。
おはよう、西村さん。
私の名前、西村じゃないんだけど、西野よ。
え？
私は西野茜。
最近寝不足で、うっかりしてたみたいだ。それじゃあ、西村さん。
西野じゃ！戻ってんじゃねえか！
Nishino hates Minoru because he never responds to Nishino properly and is always busy with his business, never mingled with other people, rarely talked to his classmates, and he just lived a life like a void human full of freedom. Then Nishino's driver was on his way to pick up Nishino from her school, but there is a mysterious car following the Nishino's driver from afar. In the afternoon, Nishino is taking a remedial class to catch up with the subject matter left behind during her career. Minoru still hasn't come home because he is focusing on his activities as usual. Then Nishino's remedial class finished at night, and she immediately called the driver to pick her up. Nishino was confused because the driver had not been standing by in front of the school since this afternoon. On the other hand, it turns out that Nishino's driver has been intercepted and beaten by two kidnappers. They have long targeted Nishino to demand large ransom money from her parents. Because Nishino's call was not answered by the driver, Nishino was forced to go home on foot. Minoru also followed where Nishino went, then suddenly, while Nishino was on her way, she was kidnapped by two people earlier.
ようやく聞きやがった。よし、さっさと運べ。
Nishino woke up in an abandoned warehouse and was bound by these criminals. They will release Nishino if their money request has been paid by Nishino's parents. They had also sent a message to Nishino's parents, so it was just a matter of waiting for them to come to give the money. One of the kidnaps will have fun with Nishino's body. He knew that Nishino had almost been raped, so this kidnapper would make Nishino feel even more pleasure than that. When Nishino was forced to undress, Minoru came and disguised himself as a murderer in the shadow named Ski Mask Berserker. One kidnapper had passed out and was seriously injured from Minoru's attack. There is only one kidnapper left for him to fight. This kidnapper is a former soldier and has a strong physique. The kidnapper also used a knife to fight Minoru and injured him. Because of that, Minoru also used a weapon against this kidnapper. It turns out that the kidnapper just realized that Minoru is the one who always beats up naughty motorcycle gangs alone. Not only that, Minoru has done a lot of fighting crime alone and always acts at night. Then Minoru beats the kidnapper sadistically because kidnapping a girl like Nishino. Then Minoru immediately untied Nishino and said, "Next time, please be careful on the way home." After that, Minoru just disappeared, and Nishino had not had time to ask the name of the person who had helped her. Then Nishino called her parents, called the police, and an ambulance. Nishino was still curious about the figure of the murderer in the shadow who had helped her earlier. One day, Nishino would surely know who it was. The next day, Nishino met Minoru again, and this time he could remember Nishino's name. Nishino was happy that their relationship could improve, and Minoru also regarded Nishino's existence. She felt that Minoru was also living his life wearing a mask to cover things up. Nishino also suspects that it was Minoru who saved her last night.
なぜかそんな気がしたけど、今はもう確かめようがない。
Minoru has been in the same class with Nishino for 3 months and is always alone to focus on his activities. Minoru admires the figures of heroes in a story, and he dreams of becoming a hero like them. He had always dreamed of becoming the greatest and strongest of all, so Minoru put a lot of effort into training himself. From morning, afternoon, and evening until night, Minoru continues to train physically, mentally, and focus. So far, Minoru has only spent time participating in various sports to achieve his dream. Minoru has always been a mysterious person, a loner, and just an extra character in school. Minoru has mastered all things related to martial arts, sword techniques, weapons, or tools commonly used in battle. He did all of this to have the strength that surpasses ordinary people. He had also learned to remember all the magic spells commonly in a story. Minoru thought that his delusions could come true.
More power.
From the beginning, he had always been obsessed with being the figure behind the shadows who eradicated many evils. But unfortunately, his obsession is just a child's imagination. Minoru had been trying hard all this time and couldn't satisfy himself. Minoru couldn't have extraordinary powers like those in a story. Yesterday, he was still able to get hit by attacks from former soldiers. This means Minoru still has a weakness. Not only that, if Minoru fought many soldiers or terrorists with weapons, he wouldn't be able to dodge them. Even if there were bombs or nukes, Minoru would definitely die because his power was limited. Lately, Minoru has been contemplating his regrets. Suddenly, after training, Minoru deliberately hits a truck because he thinks he'll get a magic source. Minoru died at 15, and this news spread everywhere. Nishino is shocked to learn that Minoru died in an accident and can't believe this incident. In the future, Minoru Kageno reincarnated in another world, and his current name is Sid Kageno. He took this opportunity to make his delusions come true. Not as the main character or the final boss, he wants to be the mastermind behind the eradication of evil in the shadow. He will make up his own story and thwart all the plans of the criminals with the power he has in this world. He created the organization named Shadow Garden with over 600 girl members, but he didn't know anything about them. He only focuses on making a cool story of himself as a Chunibyo person. In the previous world, he regretted that his powers were limited. But now, Sid had extraordinary abilities. He could still remember all the memories that existed in his previous world. Business, money, magic spell, story, music, martial arts, everything. His existence will not be able to be destroyed because Sid is nuclear itself. No one can beat him as the most powerful person in the world.
More power.
The story goes back to when Minoru Kageno died and was reborn into a noble family named Kageno. The Kageno family is a family that has a bloodline of extraordinary swordsmanship and magic. Minoru Kageno has been reincarnated as a child named Sid Kageno and has an older sister named Claire Kageno. Father, mother, and Claire were overjoyed at the birth of their son. From now on, Claire will continue to look after and protect her beloved brother. As for Sid, since he was a baby, he has remembered everything he learned on Earth, including magic. Several years passed, and Sid often practiced sword techniques together with Claire, but he deliberately didn't bring out his full potential. Sid wanted to take advantage of this chance of reincarnation to achieve his dream. A hero will not reveal his own strength to anyone. That was what Sid wanted until now, and he only wanted to eradicate evil secretly, like behind a black shadow. Sid has unique equipment. He uses ordinary slime ingredients to make jelly. Afterward, it was formed into elastic clothing and a sword, then strengthened with Sid's magic. This uniform is called Slime Bodysuit. Since Sid wanted to train his magic power until he was satisfied, he tried to steal the gold coins that the bandits had. Sid also needs money to achieve his dream, so he commits this heist alone.
頑張れば2分くらい長生きできるから、あとは君で試すとしようか。2分持たなかったね。
After killing all the bandits, Sid finds a very suspicious cage. When he saw it, it turned out that a human had a mysterious disease. Sid also sensed that there was tremendous magic power in this human body. However, he didn't want to give this body to anyone. If Sid gave this to the church, they would surely kill it. So, Sid had a clever idea. He immediately took the gold coins belonging to the bandits and brought this creature into his unused warehouse. Sid wanted to do his magic experiment on the human. After a month, Sid did not expect the human he brought to be a beautiful half-elf race. After seeing this, Sid has another idea to make his dream come true. Sid gives her a name, Alpha, and Sid deliberately tells her a fake tale. He made up a story as if Alpha was the victim of a crime committed by the Demon Lord. I'll explain what story Sid made up to lie to Alpha. Sid tells that a long time ago, there was a story of a demon lord named Diabolos who had died because he was killed by 3 legendary heroes. However, unfortunately, Diabolos was still able to spread his evil aura and curse the children of the heroes. Alpha is one of the children of the heroes who was cursed by the demon lord Diabolos. After many years had passed, a group of people wanted to resurrect the demon lord and distort the history of the story of the heroes. That group of people is the Diabolos cult or the Diabolos religion, where all members worship and have religious beliefs in the demon lord. So, the main enemy right now was the Diabolos cult. Alpha had been cursed by the demon lord in the past, and her pride had been lowered. But Alpha has been saved by Sid, and he asks Alpha to join the organization Sid created. An organization called Shadow Garden will always eradicate the evil behind the shadows in the dark of night. Shadow Garden will be led by Sid, and his followers must call Sid Shadow. At first, Alpha was confused and couldn't believe that the fairy tale about the heroes and the demon lord Diabolos was real. When Alpha's body turned into a monster, she once despaired and lost everything about her life. However, after Alpha was rescued by Sid, she was convinced that the story she had heard was true. So, Alpha is willing to become Sid's follower to eradicate evil and avenge her past treatment of the Demon Lord. She will also look for the descendants of other heroes and will invite them to join the Shadow Garden. Alpha also tells Sid to make a base and expand the organization by raising a lot of money. Sid feels happy because his fake story can make Alpha believe and invite her into a fake organization that only exists in Sid's delusions. From now on, Sid, a Chunibyo, will be having fun playing his role in eradicating evil. Sid is also happy because he can get followers just by making up a story that he made up his own plot. Then Sid gives his overwhelming power to Alpha and also gives her slime bodysuit.
あなたがそれを望むなら、私はこの命をかけましょう。
そして君はアルファと名乗れ。
3 years have passed, and Sid is already 13 years old and is practicing sword techniques with his older sister. In this world, sword and martial techniques were extremely ancient, far different from what existed on Earth. Sid could beat Claire instantly, but he didn't do it because Sid wasn't the main character in his own storyline.
技術をもってすれば。
シド、しばらく相手してあげられないけど、一人でもちゃんと訓練するのよ。
Even though Claire could defeat Sid, she knew that Sid could have great swordsmanship potential. Claire has also been learning how Sid uses his own sword technique. 2 years later, Shadow Garden's organization became bigger with all female members of various races. Alpha successfully obtained members and tried to invite anyone with a hero's lineage. Even though the story of the Diabolos cult and the descendants of this hero is just a fake story and Sid's delusions. The members of Shadow Garden also have the same uniform as Sid, slime bodysuit, and weapons that can be transformed into any shape. In Alpha's investigation, the abilities of the Diabolos cult are getting stronger, and it's possible that they already have the power of a demon. However, Sid will still carry out the goals of this organization, killing criminals in the shadows without anyone knowing. Currently, Claire has learned magic swords at a school called Midgar, but unfortunately, she was suddenly kidnapped by someone. This worried Claire's father and mother because she was the successor to the swordsman of the Kageno family. Sid, who saw this situation, immediately ordered the members of his organization, Shadow Garden, to search the base where Claire was being held. One of the Shadow Garden members, Beta, says that Claire's kidnapping must be the work of the Diabolos cult. But unfortunately, the other Shadow Garden members still can't predict where Claire is being held, even though many Diabolos cult bases have been found. Then Sid randomly shows Claire's location to Beta. In fact, he also doesn't know where Claire is now. But Beta assumes that Sid's hint is correct. If Beta combines the movement lines of the other Diabolos cult members from each base, the location that Sid points to becomes the perfect place to hold Claire. So, tonight's Shadow Garden will immediately save Claire there. On the other hand, it turns out that the Diabolos cult's goal is real. They will resurrect the demon lord Diabolos to reverse history. Orba, one of the members of the Diabolos cult, deliberately kidnaps Claire because her blood is suitable to be used as material for the resurrection of Diabolos. Orba will also be after Sid because it is possible that he also has the same blood as Claire. After listening to Orba's words, Claire was furious because she didn't want Sid to be tortured, and Claire would kill Orba right now. Unfortunately, Orba managed to beat Claire until she limped. But suddenly, Shadow Garden broke into the Diabolos cult's headquarters and killed them in a very sadistic manner. Orba immediately fled from there, but the Shadow Garden members had blocked the base's exit. Alpha, Beta, Delta, Epsilon, Eta, Gamma, and Zeta say that they know the plans of the Diabolos cult members. Orba was surprised that the secret plan of the Diabolos cult had been exposed, so he would fight the members of Shadow Garden alone. Alpha believes Sid has blocked other exits in this base. Well, actually, Sid was just wandering around and got lost in this Diabolos cult space. It also happened that Sid met Orba, who was about to run away from this base. Orba was furious that the headquarters had been surrounded by the Shadow Garden organization. Then Sid will have fun fighting against Orba like a crazy person.
教えてあげよう。正しい魔力の使い方ってやつをさ。まだまだこれからだ。味わえ、己の無力さを。教えてやろう。この世界の。ならば潜ろう。どこまでも。
After that, Claire's rescue mission has been successfully carried out, but Shadow Garden did not show themselves to Claire. The purpose of this organization was to eradicate the evil behind the shadows without anyone knowing. So Claire angrily returned home and immediately felt relieved after seeing Sid still there.
お別れよ。私たちはあなたの元を離れる時が来たわ。
Alpha and other friends are forced to part with Sid because they want to learn more about Diabolo's cult. Then Sid allowed it because he thought the members of the Shadow Garden must be bored. They weren't kids anymore, and they should have known that Shadow Garden was created to fulfill Sid's wishes only. After all, they won't be imagining heroes or anything anymore. After several years, Sid wants to go to school in Midgar, famous for its magic sword. Even though Sid is already a teenager, he is still a Chunibyo. He wants to secretly pursue his dream as a hero in the shadows. Sid will always pretend to be weak, a loser, a coward, and doesn't want to have a high rank in school. Sid will never show his true power publicly because he is just a minor character. In fact, Sid is friends with Hiyoro and Jaga, who are also students with mediocre abilities. Previously, they held a match or challenge. Whoever scored low on the sword practice test had to make Princess Alexia Midgar his girlfriend. Since the test scores were out, Sid had to do this challenge because he had lower scores than them. Princess Alexia is the idol of all the boys in this school. Anyone would want to be her boyfriend. But unfortunately, Alexia has never received love from anyone. Even a noble can't make Alexia's heart melt. Then it's Sid's turn to take on the challenge from Hiyoro and Jaga. Sid has learned how a cowardly boy wants to confess his love to a girl. Nervousness, embarrassment, ugly facial expressions, etc. But when Sid has done all those things,
あなたのような方を待っていたの。よろしくね。
Sid did not expect that his declaration of love would be accepted by Alexia. It was too strange for Sid because he pretended to be a coward so that Alexia could reject him like others. Either way, Sid should be able to break off his relationship with Alexia, as this is starting to get a lot of attention from the other students. Sid also doesn't want to be in the path of the main character, who will hinder his dream. So Sid starts to be weird, rude, etc. But unfortunately, Alexia still maintains this relationship with her cynical gaze. Even Alexia invites Sid to practice swordsmanship in the highest class, tutored by a man named Xanon. Xanon is a nice guy, elegant, responsible, handsome, rich, and always surrounded by girls at Midgar school. After Sid acquainted with the other students, he started to pair up with Alexia and do warm-up first. Sid knows how Alexia uses the sword, which is very different from the technique used by her older sister, Iris Midgar. Iris Midgar is the greatest knight in the country due to her natural talent, while Alexia has no talent whatsoever, and her sword technique is mediocre. Then Alexia tells Xanon she is already dating Sid, so Xanon doesn't need to be engaged to her anymore. Seeing this, Sid finally discovers why Alexia accepted Sid's fake love statement earlier. So, Sid immediately talked with Alexia about this matter. He wanted to break up with her now. Sid didn't want to attract much attention anymore, and didn't want to interfere in Alexia and Xanon's engagement matters. But Alexia disagrees and threatens that if Sid breaks up with her now, he will become the target of the students for playing with a girl's feelings. Sid's life will surely be ruined, and his reputation could be worse than before. Alexia already knows the challenge that Sid received from his friends, so Sid has no choice but run away from Alexia. He will continue to be Alexia's boyfriend until Xanon gives up. At first, Sid denied Alexia's words and didn't care about what would happen later. But suddenly, Alexia threw a very expensive gold coin to Sid. Of course, Sid immediately agreed and would comply with Alexia's request at any time, as long as Alexia continued to give him money. Sid still needs money to build his own organization, so he'll be the main character in his own delusions for a while. From now on, Alexia will call him Pachi. Several days have passed, and Sid is still in a relationship with Alexia, who is good at acting like a good and elegant princess. Then Sid and Alexia start dating to show their romance to the Midgar school students. Sid wonders why Alexia doesn't want Xanon as her future husband. Alexia said that she hated everything inside Xanon. Alexia judges a person not only by appearance but also by people's shortcomings. She also chooses Sid over other men because Sid is easy to guess from his cowardice. Sid has many flaws, so Alexia is interested in agreeing to Sid's fake love confession yesterday. Alexia is also very suspicious of what Xanon will do next. It could be that he has only been acting all this time to be able to marry Alexia. After all, Xanon was too kind for a girl, and these things made Alexia even more suspicious. 2 weeks have passed. Alexia and Sid's relationship has not progressed. They pretend about their normal daily life, like lovers in general. After practicing swordsmanship at school, Alexia is very confused about the sword technique used by Sid. Sid wasn't an amateur like the one in the lowest class, but not a swordsman either. This is the same as what Alexia experienced, the sword with a mediocre style. Alexia hates her sword style because she wants to be a great girl like her sister. When Alexia compares her strength to Iris, Alexia's sword technique lags far behind. Iris used to say that she liked Alexia's sword technique when Alexia lost in the festival match. But Iris' words made Alexia hate her own technique even more. Also, Alexia feels that she lacks talent, making her an ordinary person. Then Sid gave a piece of advice to Alexia. Sid doesn't care about his surroundings, even when millions of people die or the world is destroyed. He still continues to live his life goals. Also, if someone kidnaps Alexia right now, Sid wouldn't care. Sid realized that his goal was a silly thing for other people, but he wanted to say a sentence that could have a different meaning for Alexia.
だから、僕は君の剣が好きだよ。
その言葉に何の意味があるの?
If Alexia thought that Sid's sword technique was the same as hers, the sentence that Sid said earlier would not cause any misunderstanding in Alexia's mind. Sid also says that he can get angry when his likes are denied in this way. Afterward, Alexia broke up with Sid, and Alexia went home alone on the road she used to take. The next day, Sid was suddenly surrounded by Midgar's knights. Xanon tells Sid that Alexia wasn't in her dorm since yesterday, so Xanon will arrest Sid to ask what he did yesterday with Alexia. The knights guess that Alexia the last time met Sid yesterday. Sid was shocked after hearing about this kidnap, but he didn't care about Alexia's condition, so Sid will just do what Xanon wants to do next. On the other hand, Alexia woke up from her stupor, and now she was being held captive by one of the members of the Diabolos cult. There was also a child who was being the subject of their experiment. Alexia also had time to think about Sid's situation. Alexia was sure Sid was tortured because he was accused of kidnapping Princess Alexia. Not long after, a professor came there, and I will name him Terry because there is no name for this character in the anime, manga, or novel. Terry had been doing this experiment for a long time to resurrect the demon lord Diabolos, and he needed the blood of a noble or descendants of heroes. Alexia's blood was perfect for resurrecting a demon lord, so Terry would take as much of Alexia's blood as possible. Even for days, Alexia's blood continued to be drawn, and Terry forced Alexia to eat unfit food. Alexia also often defends the child there and tells the professor to focus on taking Alexia's blood only. Even though Alexia can use magic, she can't untie the chain now because it has a strong magic seal. Alexia doesn't know what really happened. She doesn't know what a demon is in the resurrection of the demon lord. All Alexia could do was hope to be saved by someone. At the same time, Sid is also tortured for days in the prison cell of the Midgar Kingdom. The knights wanted Sid to tell Alexia's whereabouts, but Sid always kept quiet and acted as if he was in pain in front of the knights. Sid didn't feel anything from this torment because he had undergone harsh training in the previous world. Also, Sid's internal wounds can heal quickly because he uses healing magic. The next day, Xanon reports to Iris that Sid hasn't said anything about Alexia for days. Iris also doesn't want to suspect Alexia's friend, so Iris releases Sid from the prison cell. She asks Xanon and a few knights to keep an eye on Sid wherever he goes. Iris couldn't order many knights to find out where Alexia was. These things make greatly irritated Iris. Xanon says it's for Iris' good because if the knights don't keep a close eye on Iris, Iris could be kidnapped too. So the royal knights will protect Iris more. After that, Iris asks Xanon to win over the other student fighting here, Claire. Claire always wanted to meet Iris because she knew that Sid was innocent. Claire thought that a man as weak as Sid was impossible to kidnap Alexia, who had strong abilities. Then Claire began to be calmed by a student named Rose Oriana. Iris understood Claire's feelings because she worried about Alexia's current condition. Iris used to often have fun learning sword techniques with Alexia. However, time had passed, and Iris never played with Alexia again. Sid is finally released on orders from Iris and is watched by several guards. While Sid was returning to his apartment, he accidentally met Alpha.
後で。
久しぶりアルファ。
Alpha meets Sid because she has received news from Beta about Sid's current situation. Usually, it's Beta who visits Sid to report on the state of the Diabolos cult, but this time it was Alpha who came to Sid because she was worried about Sid's condition. The members of Shadow Garden already knew of the Diabolos cult's next plans. Delta also misses Sid because Delta hasn't seen him in a long time. Delta looking forward to this moment because she is bloodthirsty and wants to kill all criminals alone, including the Diabolos cult. Alpha said that the members of the Shadow Garden organization have grown, and over 600 girls have their own abilities. Then Alpha started to spoil Sid and asked what Alpha didn't understand. Why didn't Sid just run away when he was detained by the Midgar Kingdom? This should be easy for Sid because he has greater strength than the other Shadow Garden members. But Sid says he will continue to pretend like this as a side character if Sid runs away from there. The accusations against him also grow more robust. Alpha is also curious. Many girls like Sid now, then why does Sid want to be Alexia's girlfriend? But Alpha doesn't want Sid to answer that because Alpha knows that Sid must have a hidden reason behind this disguise. Then Alpha said that Sid had to wait for a while, and Alpha would report the situation again when the preparations of the Shadow Garden members were finished. Alpha also wants to avenge the behavior of the two knights who have tortured Sid in the kingdom, but Sid forbids it because they will definitely get equal avenge. A few days passed, and Alexia's condition had worsened as her blood was always drawn for Terry's experiments, while Sid is making his own happiness because he has been trying hard to raise money for years. He is a Chunibyo kid making up stories in his own delusions. Sid is just waiting for reports from the other Shadow Garden members, and he also gets a letter from someone today. Not long after, Beta came, and Sid said very cool sentences like a Chunibyo. Beta is amazed by this luxury. She also loves Sid very much because Sid is too handsome and has high wisdom. Beta reports that the Shadow Garden members are ready to attack the Diabolos cult headquarters, and Alexia is definitely there. Shadow Garden members will simultaneously attack each side of the Diabolos cult headquarters, and the main rescue target is Alexia. Gamma will lead the strategy of the Shadow Garden members, while Alpha will lead the other members to attack the Diabolos cult headquarters. Beta will take the position of receiving each member's report, Epsilon in the rear support position, and Delta in the front line attack. Then Sid shows the letter he received today to Beta. The letter contains something like this: if you want Alexia safe, quickly come to the location that we have shown in this letter. Sid tells Beta to contact Delta because the frontline attack will be carried out by Sid alone. Delta only needed to finish off the Diabolos cult members around the headquarters. On the other hand, it turns out that the knight who tortured Sid earlier was a member of the Diabolos cult. They couldn't contact the supervisor from the kingdom. If it continued like this, the Diabolos cult's plan would fail again. Suddenly, Sid came there according to the contents of the letter he had received earlier, but he was framed again by the knight who suddenly threw Alexia's shoes. These shoes were already in his hand, so tonight, Sid was executed because he was proven to have kidnapped Alexia. Then Sid will treat their behavior with equal revenge.
こいつら見張りの
兄たち、高貴なるお声で語るや否や鮮烈な一撃。
開ければ全て終わっているのだから出れたか
The attack on the Shadow Garden members has begun, and all communication lines of the Diabolos cult members have been blocked by the Alpha and Gamma forces. Delta, Epsilon had also been attacking several people secretly around the base behind the scenes. Because of that, Sid immediately went to the Diabolos headquarters alone to save Alexia, and enjoyed tonight's battle. The Midgar Kingdom also saw the attack of the Shadow Garden organization, but Iris and the Knights didn't know the purpose of this attack and who did it. All places were attacked simultaneously without any reason. Then Iris told Xanon and the Knights to focus secure the school. At the Diabolos base, Terry was very panicked because the headquarters was attacked tonight. Everything they were after would surely vanish in an instant. Alexia was confused by this situation. She thought the Knight had found Alexia's whereabouts, but apparently, her guess was wrong. Also, Alexia didn't know who carried out this attack. Then Terry was forced to use Alexia's blood experiment to awaken demonic powers from the child's body. Alexia was saved by the child. She immediately opened all the chains with the key, then looked for a way out of this place. But suddenly, she meets Xanon, who is a member of the Diabolos cult. Xanon has been building this base for a long time and is after Alexia, because her blood is very suitable for experimentation. Xanon wanted to kidnap Iris, but he chose Alexia because it was easier to kidnap a girl with mediocre sword techniques.
失礼君は姉と比べられるのが嫌いだ姉君を真似た豪犬か
本当に私が凡人かどうか
Xanon had already defeated Alexia, so Alexia had to follow Xanon words now and would never be able to escape. Not long after, our main character, a Chunibyo who disguised himself as the author of the story in this anime, appeared before Xanon and Alexia.
影に潜み影を狩る者我が名はシャドウ
Since Sid is working as a member of Shadow Garden tonight, I'll just call him Shadow. Xanon says that he finally met Shadow, who had been interfering with the movements of the Diabolos cult members. Xanon hates the arrogant Shadow and can only eradicate a few small bases of the Diabolos cult. In the base Shadow has destroyed, there is no founder of the cult base, and Xanon thinks Shadow is just a loser kid who only targets small bases. Then Xanon, the founder of this Diabolos cult headquarters, will kill Shadow tonight.
それで教団の主力はどこにいるんだ
On the other hand, the child monster was rampaging and destroying every building she passed. The knights also attempted to attack the child monster, but unfortunately, they didn't manage to kill the monster, and she started attacking the knights again. Not long after, Iris cut off the monster's hand. Iris said the knights should retreat and help evacuate the citizens, whereas this monster, Iris, would fight alone. Then the child monster suddenly regenerates, and Iris attacks it again. Even after being attacked many times, child monsters can still regenerate continuously. Suddenly, Alpha came to cancel Iris' attack. Alpha said that Iris' attack would make this child monster suffer even more, so Iris and the knights just stood there and watched how Alpha solved this problem. Iris asks about Alpha's identity. If Alpha dares to fight the knights, Iris won't spare her. Then Alpha said that Iris and the knights didn't need to interfere. They just behaved sweetly while sitting and watching Alpha's way of solving this problem. After all, Alpha wasn't willing to attack a weakling like Iris. Alpha had purified the monster, and she was Orba's daughter who was deliberately experimented on by the Diabolos cult, and now Orba's daughter's life could not be saved. Then Alpha kept Orba's family locket and introduced herself to Iris, saying Alpha was from the Shadow Garden organization. After that, Alpha just walked away and never showed her true face to Iris. Then Iris was confused and curious about the Shadow Garden organization. But for now, Iris had to focus on finding Alexia first. Back to Shadow and Xanon's fight. Xanon admits that Shadow's sword technique is quite good, because it can match Xanon's sword speed. Then Xanon starts to use advanced demonic magic power and attacks Shadow continuously. Seeing this battle, Alexia was reminded of her own mediocre sword technique. Shadow's fighting style is similar to Alexia's, even the same as Sid's swordsmanship. Mediocre sword techniques are actually techniques that have freedom in fighting. If one continues to practice this sword technique, one's abilities will also be honed. It can even exceed the power of any other sword technique in this world. Then Alexia realizes that Iris' words are not to mock Alexia. Even though Alexia has no talent, all this time, Alexia has been practicing swordsmanship because she likes it and wants to be like Iris. Iris sincerely encourages Alexia. Even Iris really likes Alexia's sword techniques because Alexia always tries hard to learn them. All this time, Alexia had misunderstood the thoughts she had made herself. This can happen because many people compare Alexia's strength to Iris. Then Xanon was already battered and had absolutely no chance of harming Shadow. Xanon didn't expect Shadow to have this much power, and he also wondered why Shadow hid his true identity. Then Shadow introduces his organization, Shadow Garden. The goal of Shadow Garden is to hunt down and eradicate the evil behind the shadows. Then Xanon still wants to fight Shadow, for getting in the way of the Diabolos cult's plans. Xanon ate some pill, and his body shape changed to that of a half-demon. Xanon will show his extraordinary power, and Shadow will surely die.
醜いな。その程度で最強を語るな。それは最強への冒涜だ。
Shadow and Alexia are increasingly disgusted by Xanon's arrogant nature. Shadow is angry that Xanon said that the power he has is extraordinary. He feels insulted by Xanon's words, and will teach him the meaning of genuine extraordinary power. Shadow says that Xanon's strength is only a borrowed power from the experiment's results, and there is no need to boast about such power. In the past, Sid, still alive on Earth, always thought of ways to avoid nuclear explosions. He even thought of challenging the nuclear. Even though Sid had been training as hard as he could every day for 24 hours, he still hadn't figured it out. But now, he has finally found a way to avoid a nuclear explosion. Be the nuke itself.
自分が核になればいい。
「 遊びは終わりだ。
Xanon couldn't believe such a great power existed in one person, even though he had never seen such a power. Shadow immediately kills Xanon because Shadow is already having fun with this battle.
これぞ我が最強。真の最強をその身に刻め。
これが魔力なのか。だがこんな
Almost one city was destroyed by Sid's magic, and Xanon was already killed by him. Sid disappears suddenly, and Alexia remains protected by Sid before he uses this extraordinary power. Alexia thinks the Shadow's power she saw just now is wonderful, and Alexia feels like practicing the sword again. Not long after, Iris came to the source of the explosion and immediately hugged Alexia, because Iris was very worried about Alexia. Alexia is also grateful that Iris has been looking for Alexia, and is worried about her. The next day, Alexia goes to Sid to tell him about last night's incident. Sid is also safe from kidnapping charges, and Alexia thanks Sid for liking her sword technique. She realized it wasn't thanks to Sid but because she saw Shadow using the same sword technique as Alexia. Sid also doesn't need to be Alexia's fake boyfriend anymore, but Alexia sincerely asks Sid to be her real boyfriend. Of course, Sid refuses because he doesn't care about Alexia's feelings. Hearing this, Alexia gets angry and beats Sid with her sword technique. Even though Sid doesn't wear a mask like in the manga or light novel, Alexia still doesn't know Sid's real identity. On the other hand, the Shadow Garden members were meeting to discuss serious matters. After they introduced the name of this organization to the public, a group of people used their names as news of murder charges. Then Zeta was surveying and finding a place while Etta was researching. They were also happy that Sid was having fun and was bringing out his incredible powers. All the members of Shadow Garden love Sid very much, but unfortunately, Sid doesn't care and doesn't respond to their love. At the place of Sid's magic explosion, Iris will make the team investigate this mysterious case. Diablo's cult and Shadow Garden. Iris doesn't know anything and is curious about these two organizations that are secretly moving. Iris wants to know more about who enemies they will face and whose side Shadow Garden is on. Iris entrusted the investigation team to two knights, Glenn and Marco. Iris didn't want the other knights to get involved, and this team had to have trustworthy members, unlike Xanon. Iris hears from Alexia that Xanon is a member of the Diablo's cult. Iris realized that she had been lied to and played with by him all this time. Even as Sid's accusation continues, Xanon tells Iris that Sid's condition is fine. Therefore, Iris will be even more careful in taking action. The only clue the Diablo's cult could investigate was the object at the site's magic explosion. On the other hand, there was a girl who was researching the same thing as Iris found. Then suddenly, she met Sid with blood all over his body.
大丈夫?
After that, Sid had lunch with his friends, and they took Sid to a mall that had recently become popular among the public. Sid and his friends want to buy chocolate there because it tastes very good and is quality. On the other hand, Iris gave the Diablo's cult's item to the girl who met Sid yesterday, Sherry. Iris purposely handed this artifact to her because Sherry was the smartest student in this kingdom. Sherry will conduct research on the language contained in the artifact. At first, Sherry was hesitant to accept this offer, but Sherry's father, Lutheran, said that Sherry should try this research. Iris has provided a good opportunity for Sherry's future development. Lutheran is the deputy head of the science school in this Midgar kingdom, so he agreed to recommend Sherry research in more detail about this Diablo's artifact. Finally, Sherry accepted Iris' offer thanks to her father's support. Then Iris ordered her new team, the Red Knight Squad or the Crimson Order, to guard Sherry whenever and wherever. Iris guessed that the Diablo's cult might still need this artifact. Then Alexia also wants to join the new team that Iris created. Alexia also wants to help Iris to know the goals of Shadow Garden and the Diablo's cult. Iris was initially hesitant to include Alexia in her team. She didn't want a dangerous event to threaten Alexia's life again. But Alexia was trying to reassure Iris that she would still be fine. Then Iris agreed to Alexia's request. Iris advises Alexia to avoid dangerous things and not push herself when facing enemies. Then Sid and his friends went to the mall, and many people were waiting in line. If the queue was like this, they probably wouldn't be able to sleep in the dorm tonight because the mall queue was too long. Not long after, a mall employee wanted to take Sid to fill out the mall's questionnaire inside. This girl's name is New, she only needs Sid, and the rest of them must wait here. When Sid was ushered into the mall, he felt he recognized the mall in this style, and was just like Sid's previous world. Then they arrived at a room, and it turned out that there were no questionnaires to fill in this mall. So Sid is escorted to Shadow Garden's new headquarters located above the mall. Then Sid was greeted like a king and met with Gamma. She runs this mall without Sid's knowledge, and Gamma's business is growing rapidly in various cities. Even Gamma's huge benefits can be used to expand Shadow Garden's headquarters in various places again. Sid is surprised that Gamma can get this much money. He also doesn't know that Gamma runs businesses in various cities. So far, Shadow Garden's members have grown and developed by themselves without Sid's knowledge. Then Gamma thanked him because when Gamma was little, Gamma's life had been saved by Shadow Garden and Sid with his beautiful purple light. Sid has also taught her how to make delicious chocolate and run a business to earn a lot of money. Then Gamma started talking about a group of people who pretended to be members of the Shadow Garden and killed the citizens mercilessly. Gamma and the rest of the Shadow Gardens are investigating the case and have yet to find out who planned it. Then Sid didn't know what was happening and what case Gamma was referring to. But Sid still plays like a king in Chunibyo. He can easily handle cases. Sid tells Gamma that the mastermind behind this case can be found, and he will solve the case. In Sid's mind, he suspected that Alexia had pretended to be Shadow Garden and ordered her subordinates to kill the citizens. Even though Alexia is a girl, Sid will not hesitate to kill her for using the name Shadow Garden to commit a crime. Gamma increasingly admires and falls in love with Sid, and she also introduces New as a new member of Shadow Garden. Alpha recruited New because New's abilities were extraordinary. Then Sid accepted New as a new member of Shadow Garden. Sid also asked Gamma for 3 chocolates at a discount because he didn't want to wait long in front of the mall.
最高級のチョコをご用意します。
10割つまりタダじゃんラッキー
受け取れ。
まあ
At night, a group of people pretending to be Shadow Garden began to act again. They will show no mercy to whoever they kill. I'll call them fake Shadow Garden. After getting 3 chocolates, Sid and his friends immediately returned to the academy dormitory. But suddenly, Sid heard the sound of swords around there. This intrigued Sid, and he pretended to want to pee and poop on the streets with his friends. Sid told them to leave because he couldn't stand it anymore to expel the dung around the small path there. Then with a heavy heart, Sid's friends left him, and they would never divulge this secret to anyone.
さて。
もう諦めなさい。
It turned out that Alexia was fighting some people pretending to be Shadow Garden. Sid, who saw this, was surprised because his guess about Alexia was wrong. Alexia managed to defeat one person, but unfortunately, several more people appeared and immediately killed Alexia. Sid manages to save Princess Alexia, and fake Shadow Garden escapes. Alexia inquires about Shadow Garden's true purpose, but Sid warns Alexia not to interfere. Then Sid chased the members of fake Shadow Garden and managed to kill one person easily. New, who had met Sid there, said she would face the rest of the fake Shadow Garden members. Then Sid left, and New started looking for information from the rest of these fake Shadow Garden members.
まさか逃げ切れるとでも思っていたのか。
シャドウ様ほど甘くない。
On the other hand, the group of people who pretended to be Shadow Garden turned out to order from someone called Slim Knight. He didn't worry about the people caught and killed by the real Shadow Garden members. Slim Knight already knew where the thing he was going to take was from somewhere. The priority of the Slim Knight and his followers was to retrieve the important item.
その所在が分かった。その回収が最優先だ。
Alexia managed to get safely into the Midgar Kingdom and immediately treated her wounds. Then Alexia tells Iris that Shadow Garden never kills citizens, and the case in this town is the work of fake Shadow Garden members. Alexia also said Shadow Garden had been fighting the Diabolos cult all along. According to some reports that Iris had found, the Shadow Garden members also had good swordsmanship abilities. However, Iris still couldn't think of Shadow Garden as a friend of the Midgar Kingdom. Shadow Garden will remain an enemy of Iris until she finds out the purpose of this Shadow Garden organization, including the Diabolos cult. The next day, Sid and his friends will give chocolates to each person they like. Sid doesn't care about this, but because his friends are so enthusiastic, Sid just follows them. Sid's friends failed to give chocolate to a girl. Finally, only Sid is left, and he will give this chocolate to any girl he meets first. Incidentally, there was Sherry there, and Sid immediately gave the chocolate to her.
はい。大丈夫？
In the afternoon, Sherry was researching Diabolo's cult artifacts in her room while enjoying the chocolates Sid gave her. Then Lutheran came into Sherry's room and said the very expensive chocolate was popular among teenagers. Lutheran said that a girl who receives chocolate from a man, it is certain that the man loves her. Sherry had to answer the man's feelings of love as soon as possible, and should not let his feelings be uncertain. Then Lutheran was seen coughing badly, and Sherry was going to call the doctor. But Lutheran refused because he wanted Sherry to continue researching this Diabolo's cult artifact. Lutheran believed that Sherry would become the greatest researcher like her mother.
君のお母さんも優秀な研究者だった。
The next day, Sherry was still thinking about the chocolate Sid gave her yesterday. Sherry is guarded by Glenn and Marco from the Crimson Order. In the afternoon, Sid discusses with Nu, disguised as a student at the Midgar Academy. Nu said that she didn't get any information from a member of fake Shadow Garden yesterday. Nu realized their behavior was very strange, as if they had been drugged and obeyed what they were told. Mental and heart are already damaged by the side effects of these drugs. The Diabolos cult takes many poor people who possess magic and drugs them to mentally damage them so they can become members of the fake Shadow Garden. A group of people pretending to be Shadow Garden are named Children of Diabolos. There are 3 levels of children. Orba and Xanon are the second levels, then the first level is called Rex. The Children of Diabolos deliberately use the name Shadow Garden to lure Sid and the other members into showing themselves again. Rex and the fake Shadow Garden members have goals other than destroying the city, but Sid didn't really know what was going on. He was simply following his own delusions and storylines as a shadow. Then the Midgar Academy started the Magic Sword Festival yearly activities. Claire can beat her opponent easily. Meanwhile, Sid will fight Rose, a princess from the country of Oriana, who has the highest ranking swordsmanship in this academy. Sid joined this festival because he was registered by his friends. Even though Sid is lazy to join this festival, he will still appear here with various secret moves or mob fu he has learned from the Earth and another world. The secret move of a coward and loser. Sid pretends to be hit by an attack from Rose and is badly injured. He did this because he didn't want to attract the students' attention. Like in other fictional stories, Sid has also learned that a loser will not give up after losing many times. Even though he has no power, he still wants to fight. This is a naive character. Because of that, Sid continues to fight Rose and pretends to be seriously injured. Rose is amazed by Sid's tenacity at the festival, and she is interested in Sid. Then the match forcibly ended. The referee considered Sid seriously injured, and he had to be taken to the Academy's medical room. After that, the medics give Sid a lot of bandages, even though he is not injured at all. Not long after, Sherry approached Sid because she was worried about Sid's body condition. Then Sherry invited Sid to have tea together in the Academy cafeteria. Sherry saw Sid's previous match, and Sherry thought that Sid looked cool for not wanting to give up on Rose. Sid is confused because Sherry has weird type. A loser guy like Sid's behavior shouldn't be liked by girls. Then Sherry gave her homemade cake for reply Sid's chocolate. Sherry also wants to be friends with Sid because this is the first step for Sherry to approach a man. Then Sid accepted Sherry's cake and agreed to be her friend. Sherry was very happy and told her father, who was watching Sid and Sherry in the cafeteria. Then Lutheran chatted with Sid as well as Sherry. Lutheran said that he was glad that Sherry could have friends, because every day, Sherry only researched the important artifacts given by the knights. Sid knows Lutheran background. He is a swordsman who won the festival when he was young. Due to that, Sid tries to avoid Lutheran and Sherry as they are the main characters in this academy. Sid will still be a supporting or minor character in his own delusions. Several days had passed, and Sherry was still thinking about Sid, who was so cool. This was the first time Sherry felt her heart beating fast like this. But suddenly, she remembered Alexia, who still had a relationship with Sid. But lately, they were less often seen together daily than they used to be. Then Sherry was accompanied by Marco to Alexia's room at night. First, Sherry chatted with Alexia to confirm Alexia and Sid's relationship. Then Alexia said that she had broken up with Sid. Alexia also admitted that previously, she only pretended to be dating Sid because there were reasons and goals for each. After hearing that, Sherry was grateful because she could approach Sid without worrying about Alexia's feelings. Sherry also told Alexia that she had become friends with Sid a few days ago, so Sherry would pay attention to Sid from now on. Sherry really admires Sid because he is so cool and kind too. After hearing this, Alexia was furious because she was jealous of Sherry. Alexia has a crush on Sid, but she doesn't want to be honest with her feelings. Several days passed, and Sid was studying in class as usual while training his physique and magic every day. Then Rose, the student council president at Midgar Academy, enters Sid's class to inform them about the selection of student council members. Rose saw Sid, who was in this class, and Rose was happy to see him again. But suddenly, Slim Knight and the fake Shadow Garden members were already at Midgar Academy. Slim Knight immediately activated a magic barrier, and the fake Shadow Garden members were about to wreak havoc on the academy now. Sid realized that there was an active magic barrier in the academy, and he knew that the members of the fake Shadow Garden had already surrounded the entire academy area. The members of the fake Shadow Garden have a very important purpose in this academy, and all students must obey the orders of the fake Shadow Garden. If several students were going against the fake Shadow Garden, they would be killed. Rose is about to fight fake Shadow Garden, but her magic cannot be activated because of a barrier surrounding the academy area. On the other hand, Sid is very excited because there is an incident like a terrorist attack. He had been waiting for this moment to have fun. Then the fake Shadow Garden members were about to kill Rose because she disobeyed fake Shadow Garden's orders, but something unexpected happened. Rose is shocked that Sid would do something like this and thinks Sid secretly loves Rose. So far, Rose has never seen a man as determined as Sid. Then the fake Shadow Garden members ordered all the students to gather in the academy hall. If a few people objected, they would suffer the same fate as Sid. Rose thanked Sid tearfully, and they quickly left for the academy hall. A few minutes later, suddenly, something unexpected happened to Sid. Sid is still alive, and he's just pretending to be dead. Even though Sid is dying, he can still live thanks to the blood in his brain. It's still flowing with the help of magic. The magic he created himself protected not only the brain but the blood throughout Sid's body. Previously, he protected Rose because Rose was not a victim who had to die in this fake Shadow Garden attack. Sid does this because he still wants to be weak. After all, the weak character usually had the trait of wanting to save humans in the novel or manga. Sid couldn't use all of his magic power because of the magic barrier set up in this academy. However, Sid could still modify his magic into tiny particle pieces for the magic array. From now on, Sid will have fun killing these members of the fake Shadow Garden one by one. On the other hand, Sherry was still researching Diabolo's artifact, and she could almost decipher what was inside the artifact. But suddenly, Rex came to Sherry's room and wanted to take the artifact. That item was what Slim Knight and the fake Shadow Garden members had been looking for all this time. Then Glenn came to save Sherry and told her to escape to another place in this academy. Marco will also restrain the other Shadow Garden members from getting in Sherry's way. Then Sherry left there with the Diabolo's artifact. Sid was watching the members of the fake Shadow Garden from above the academy building. He was pleased because today's events were very exciting, just like what he wanted in his Chunibyo delusional story. Sid also saw outside the academy that many Midgar Knights had gathered, but they won't be able to enter because of the magic barrier in this academy. Then Sid was also a little annoyed with the fake Shadow Garden members. They wear black robes during the day, which is very stupid. Of course, black robes always stand out when worn during the day. Because of that, Sid would single-handedly kill all these idiots in an instant.
スナイパーごっこで時間を稼いで登場シーンは夜までさ。
Sid also saw Sherry heading somewhere, so he decided to help Sherry get past the fake Shadow Garden members. Sid also has the imagination to make a new story. He will be the main character when it gets dark. After the situation in the academy reaches the climax of the story, Shadow Garden reappears to eradicate evil and save the students in the hall. It was a very epic story for Sid, so he would follow the flow of fake Shadow Garden while killing them one by one. Sid also jumps from the top of the building like a fictional superhero, making Sid very cool in his delusions. He also secretly protects Sherry and the many fake Shadow Garden members that Sid has killed instantly. Sid also saved Sherry when she almost fell down the academy ladder. Sid warns Sherry that she is not very aware of her surroundings. Sid was very disturbed by the sound of the sandals Sherry was wearing, so Sid told her to take off the sandals to go where Sherry was going. After arriving at Lutheran's room, Sherry looked for and took an ancient book that Sherry had read with her parents. Then Sherry told Sid about the artifact used by these terrorists, the Pupil of Greed or the Eye of Avarice. This artifact could memorize any magic and absorb magic power that had a large capacity. But the Eye of Avarice's main weakness was that it couldn't memorize and absorb magic power with too small and unlimited capacity. Not only that, there was a possibility that this item could explode if it continuously absorbed magic capacity. The fake Shadow Garden members had deliberately ordered the students to gather in the academy hall because they wanted to kill them with the power of the Eye of Avarice. Sherry said Diabolo's artifact could stop Eye of Avarice's absorption of magic. But Sherry had yet to finish researching this artifact, and Sherry's research equipment was left in her private room. Because of that, Sid would take Sherry's equipment so she could save the students in the academy hall. Sid also feels happy because the story scenarios for the terrorist attacks are getting more epic, so Sid can rage and have fun until satisfied. On the other hand, it turns out that Rex managed to beat Glenn and Marco. He immediately reported this to Slim Knight and was about to retrieve the artifact that Sherry had brought. Rex doesn't believe that Shadow Garden can beat Xanon and Orba, but this time, they can't beat Slim Knight as the second children and Rex as the first children Diabolos. The Slim Knight had been waiting for this moment to use the artifact's power to become a top-tier Diabolos cult knight. Then Rex will look for Sherry. But when Rex and the other fake Shadow Garden members were walking around the halls of the Academy's classrooms, they were suddenly surprised because something strange had happened.
網だ！何をしたかわかるか？そう、網だ！一体どんなアーティファクトで？最高だね。
Rex had been killed by Sid, who was wholly drowned in personal pleasure. Many corpses of the fake Shadow Garden members that Sid had arranged in each academy's classroom seats were like a psychopath. On the other hand, Nu, who was still disguised as a student at the academy, was looking at the state of Glenn and Marco in Sherry's room. Not long after, Sid arrived to get all of Sherry's equipment. Sid also asked why Nu was in this room. Then Nu replied that Marco was her fiancé before, but they didn't get married because of a problem that hurt Nu. Then Nu reported that all Shadow Garden members had hidden around the academy. They are ready to be ordered by Sid whenever and wherever. But the Shadow Garden members couldn't fully use their power because of this magic barrier. Some even were naked because Shadow Garden's slime bodysuit included magic power. But Sid didn't worry about that, and enlisted Nu's help collecting research equipment. After that, Nu was curious about what Sid would do with this equipment. Then Sid told Nu everything he had heard from Sherry. Nu was surprised that there were people who could research these extremely complicated artifacts. Sid is also amazed by Sherry because her research is so amazing. Then Sid says that this research will last for a few more hours. After hearing that, Nu will tell the other Shadow Garden members to prepare for their respective positions.
命拾いしたわね。
お父様、どうか。
Nu had already signaled to Gamma and the other members of Shadow Garden. Now they had to get ready to wait for Sid and Sherry's signal. In Lutheran's room, Sherry is still working on her research to unlock the Eye of Avarice's ability. Meanwhile, outside the Academy building, many Midgar Knights could not enter because all access roads to the Academy were closed. Apart from swords, many fake Shadow Garden members wield guns. If they forced their way into the Academy, they would be killed instantly for fighting without magic. After Sherry worked on her research for a long time, finally, the Eye of Avarice could be used to save the students in the Academy Hall. Then Sherry immediately invited Sid to enter the secret passage around the Academy Hall. Sherry knows this secret path because she used to be here with her parents. Then the story goes back to when Sherry was a child, and she saw her mother being killed by someone. After seeing this, Sherry was shocked and will live with Lutheran. Even though Lutheran was only Sherry's stepfather, Lutheran had helped and supported Sherry's mother in various studies. After the death of Sherry's mother, Lutheran made Sherry his adopted daughter. The story goes back to the present. Sid says he will not join Sherry because he will only hinder Sherry when she arrives around the hall. Sid advised Sherry that all students' safety is in her hands. Then Sherry felt excited after Sid said that, and she immediately went to the Academy Hall. On the other hand, Slim Knight was waiting for Rex, who hadn't come to the hall since this afternoon. It was already night, and Slim Knight still needed to get the Eye of Avarice. Slim Knight will use the artifact to increase his strength, because a lot of power is hidden in the Eye of Avarice. Then Slim Knight and the members of the fake Shadow Garden would torture the Academy's students with rifles. Rose and the other students couldn't do anything because of the magic barrier activated in the Academy. Before long, Sherry made it to the top of the Academy Hall, and she immediately activated the Eye of Avarice. She threw it to the Slim Knight to deactivate the artifact in his hand, and the magic barrier disappeared instantly. Because of that, Rose and the students immediately killed the members of the fake Shadow Garden there. Of course, Shadow Garden also showed themselves again to the public. Sherry is looking for her father, who was not seen from the beginning of this terrorist attack. Meanwhile, Sid was suspicious of Slim Knight because he seemed so relaxed. But suddenly, Slim Knight just disappeared from Sid's sight. The entire Academy building and hall burst into flames shortly after. Rose immediately ordered the students to get out of this place, while Sid already knew who was the mastermind behind all the attacks and burning of this academy. That was the Slim Knight. Then he immediately headed somewhere within the academy. On the other hand, the Knights and Iris could enter the academy thanks to the deactivated magic barrier. But they need clarification on this state of affairs, and need to know who is evil and who is good. Iris asked Rose to explain the situation, and Rose also said she didn't understand what was happening. There are foreign groups that say they are Shadow Garden, while the terrorists also said the same thing. On the other hand, Sherry was still trying to find her father while walking towards a safe place. Slim Knight suddenly entered Lutheran's room and immediately burned the research results. Then Sid, who had changed into his Midgar student form, greeted Slim Knight in a friendly manner. Sid learns the identity of Slim Knight, and when he takes off his mask, it turns out that Slim Knight is Lutheran. Then Sid was curious about the Lutheran reason for making all this mess. Lutheran's answer might be a pardon for this deed. Lutherans say he was at the peak of glory when he was young, not only at the Festival Academy, but many things have been achieved by Lutheran. But unfortunately, he was stricken with a strange disease, which cost Lutheran all his accomplishments. After having suffered from this disease for so long, Lutheran realized that there was something that could make his former glory rise again. It was an artifact that could store a lot of magical power, and Lutheran started searching for it. Then Sid was forced to listen to a very long Lutheran story that had to do with Sherry. Lutheran told Sid that this room was where Sherry's mother always conducted her research. She is a great researcher. Lutheran deliberately supported Sherry's mother's research until he managed to get his hands on the artifact he had been looking for. But unfortunately, Sherry's mother said it was very dangerous, and she would give this artifact to the state for them to manage it. Because of this, Lutheran deliberately killed Sherry's mother and took the artifact. Lutheran killed Sherry's mother in a very sadistic way, starting from stabbing her body to stabbing her heart. Even though Sherry saw the incident, she didn't know who killed her mother because the room was very dark. Then Lutheran deliberately told Sherry to continue her mother's research until now. Lutheran was so happy because he could have this stupid and usable Sherry like this. After hearing all Lutheran's stories, Sid says that he doesn't care what happens to Sherry and Sherry's mother. Then Sid immediately fought Lutheran now.
どこへ行く?
Lutheran was surprised because suddenly Shadow came there. Because of that, Lutheran immediately used his artifact to increase his magic power and kill Shadow. Lutheran started attacking Shadow from multiple directions at breakneck speed. Still, the power of Lutheran was a far cry compared to Shadow. Shadow looked down on Lutheran because the artifact's power was next to nothing. After hearing that, Lutheran will show the true power of the artifact to Shadow. Lutheran also said that Shadow Garden will continue to have problems. No matter how much power Shadow has, it will not be able to fight enemies in the future. Lutheran had manipulated this terrorist attack as a mistake made by Shadow Garden. Shadow will not be able to escape from this problem, because the whole world will become the enemy of Shadow Garden. Then Shadow laughs and replies that he doesn't care about threats or anything Lutheran says. Shadow Garden is impartial to no one, neither evil nor good. Shadow Garden has a way of life that no one in this world can interfere with. Shadow Garden will fight all enemies and bear all the sins in this world. Shadow Garden always does what they need because no amount of threat can change Shadow Garden. Even though the world has changed, Shadow Garden can do what they want. Upon hearing that, Lutheran was shocked that Shadow could still boast like that.
必要なものは全て回収しました。
体の先から中心へついていき、最後は心臓だったな。
ご苦労様。あとは。
Lutheran just found out that Shadow's identity is Sid Kageno. However, Lutheran has been killed by Shadow's hands in the same way when he killed Sherry's mother. Not long after, Sherry returned to her father's room and was shocked to see Lutheran killed by Shadow. Sherry doesn't know what really happened, but Shadow says that Sherry doesn't need to find out anything about this incident if she doesn't want her heart to be hurt. The next day, news of the incident at the academy spread everywhere. All accusations point towards Shadow Garden, especially Shadow. The Midgar Kingdom holds a bounty for killing Shadow, but Gamma and Alpha weren't worried about that. All Shadow Garden members were amazed after hearing Shadow's words last night. Shadow Garden will fight all enemies and bear all the sins in this world. Shadow Garden always does what they need because no amount of threat can change Shadow Garden. Even though the world has changed, Shadow Garden can do what they want. This sentence really made them admire Shadow even more. Then Alpha told Gamma to gather the 7 most important members of Shadow Garden, 7 Shadows, to discuss the next plan. On the other hand, Sherry invites Sid to chat with her for a while. Sherry was grateful because Sid had helped her to complete the artifact research. Sherry wanted to say goodbye to Sid because she had decided to study abroad. Sherry will head to Lavaga's country, which is famous for its great science. Sherry had to do something that was weighing on her heart, and her current knowledge was not enough because her father had died. Sid asks what Sherry will do in the future, but Sherry says it's her secret. Sherry hopes that one day she can have a relaxed conversation like that time with Sid.
秘密です。またいつか。私は必ず。
After the incident caused by Lutheran, the Midgar Academy was closed until the building was completely renovated. Many students return home to meet their families, but Sid still lives in his dorm. Even when Claire was looking for the whereabouts of her beloved little brother, Sid deliberately hid from her. If you read the Eminence and Shadow manga, you will know how much Claire loves Sid. Claire falls into the Brocken category. Shortly after, Sid receives a letter from Alpha containing a sacred site in the city of Lindbergh. Alpha told Sid to go there because Shadow Garden found something behind the city of Lindbergh.
過去を清算する時が来たか。リンドブルム。
On this day, all Shadow Garden members perform their respective activities at the headquarters. Delta sleeps while dreaming that she is making out with Sid. Eta is exhausted from researching something. Gamma is doing business with Shadow Garden members, and other members help each other to maintain and clean the headquarters. Meanwhile, Epsilon was proud of her own body. Epsilon's body actually has a small or lowly size. It is far from ideal standards compared to the other Shadow Garden members. But thanks to the slime magic power given to her by Sid back then, Epsilon's body became absolutely perfect. She increased the size of her boobs with slime and changed her body shape to look sexier. On the other hand, Beta keeps staying up late to write her novel while dressing sexy. She is also a famous writer in this world thanks to the help from Sid long ago. Sid always tells other people's novels that he has read in his world to this other world. Beta is very happy to hear any stories from Sid, starting from the genres of mystery, action, adventure, fantasy, isekai, reincarnation, shounen, seinen, school, ecchi, harem, romance, anime. Then Beta will freshen up her mind outside because she needs more story inspiration.
着替えどこだっけ？おはようベータ。おはようイプシロン。
Epsilon came to Beta because she wanted to show off her perfect body. Epsilon said that Beta's boobs were nothing compared to Epsilon's. She knew that Beta's boobs were one of the largest among the Shadow Garden members, but still, Beta wouldn't be able to attract Sid's attention. Epsilon is so confident that recently Sid has been staring at her sexy boobs and body with lewd looks. But Beta isn't sure about that because Sid is always focused on himself. And Epsilon approached Beta's boobs and said that Beta must have never received lewd looks from Sid. Even though Beta has big boobs, Sid will still belong to Epsilon.
あれれ？もしかしてないのかしら？って私なんかよりベータの方がおっぱい大きいし。最近よく主様に見られる気がするの。何をしているのですか？アルファ様から指令が届きました。
Not long after, Alexia and Iris visited Gamma's mall, which had long been famous for various luxury goods. Alexia was invited to an event called the Goddess Trial in the city of Lindbrum. So, she came here to buy some clothes to wear during the Goddess Trial later. Iris only accompanied her beloved sister because Iris had wanted to have this close relationship for a long time. Alexia, a Crimson Order member, is also assigned to investigate a case and rumors that occurred at the Goddess Trial event. Then Gamma, who used the alias Luna, came to meet them to offer clothing recommendations that were trending among the girls. Gamma knew that they wanted to go to the city of Lindrum, because Iris and Alexia had talked about this earlier. Then Alexia wants Gamma to prepare recommendations for ordinary clothes for daily activities. Alexia says that while blushing and looks like she's about to give it to Iris. After all, Iris wore few clothes because she didn't keep up with the girls' fashion trends in this town. Upon hearing that, Gamma suddenly offered them the latest production of panties. The shape and style of these panties enhance the feminine aura on a girl's body when alone with a man. Alexia and Iris are surprised because it is their first time seeing transparent, thin, and small panties like this. Alexia is interested in the newest panties because she has a sexy body and buttocks. Then Gamma suggested Alexia try on the panties first in the changing room. This latest underwear product has maximized girls' desire to look beautiful. Even these panties are perfect for a girl wearing a thin and transparent dress. After hearing that, Alexia immediately invites Iris to look at Alexia's body while wearing the panties.
とにかくダメですよ認めませんギーリー大丈夫です大丈夫ではないでしょうそれどう見てもアレクシアそれは透けているのではないですかアレクシア姉様ティーバッグは絶対に認められないものなのですかだから答えてください姉様そうですかですが姉様絶対というわけではじゃあ買います実は私も履いているのです ご覧ください。あとそこの穴のそれ試着です。
Yeah, boy.
Sid is heading to the city of Lindern by train with Rose. Sid didn't expect this to happen because he coincidentally met Rose on the way. Sid could have run at top speed to the city of Lindern, but sadly, he still had to pretend to hide his powers from everyone like a fictional hero. Flashback story: when the incident after Sid killed Lutheran and Midgar Academy burned down. Sid pretends to be injured and heavily bandaged so that no one else will suspect him. Then Rose finds the place where Sid is being treated. Rose swears to love Sid because he has sacrificed a lot for Rose. Since then, Rose always sticks to Sid whenever they see each other. Rose is also willing to become Sid's wife in the future. Rose loves him so much, but Sid doesn't care about Rose's feelings, and he has to keep trying anyway to get away from her. Lindberm is a city that is very famous for its religious. The people there always worship the goddess Beatrix. Rumor has it that Beatrix grants powers to legendary heroes. There is being held a routine event every year called Goddess Trail, but there is something odd going on at this event. By the way, Rose was also invited to the event, so her destination was the same as Sid.
朝に夕にと2日にわたる宗教勧誘を何とかかわし続け
Finally, Sid and Rose arrived in the city of Lindern, and they visited an accessories shop. Sid was confused because he saw all the keychains with only the shape of the left arm. Then Rose replied that a hero named Olivier had previously killed the demon lord Diabolos and cut off Diabolos' left arm. The left arm was sealed in a sacred land or holy region in a mountainous area. But that's a fairy tale in the past. No one knows what happened. Shortly after, Rose saw a famous novelist holding a meet and greet. She was Natsume, and Rose had been a huge fan for a long time. Natsume's works are extraordinary and can create stories from various genres. Then Rose started lining up to get Natsume's signature, and Sid saw a lot of stories written by her.
The Eminences says 読めないな我が名はシャドウ読めないなワンパースドラゴンビール紅頭巾スタートラップ我が輩はドラゴンであるロミオとジュリエットシンデレラ
Sid is suspicious of many of these stories and suspects that a reincarnation system may be deliberately occurring in this world. But when Sid checks Natsume's figure directly, it turns out she is Beta, who has arrived in this city. Sid doesn't know about any business run by Shadow Garden members, so he is surprised that Beta makes money from the stories Sid tells her. Sid is very upset because Gamma and Beta have profited from his knowledge without Sid knowing it. Then Beta secretly writes the plans for Shadow Garden, which will run soon in the book that Sid has bought. At night, before tomorrow's goddess trial event, Alpha is investigating an odd case at the church where the sacred land door is located. Shadow Garden wants to know what events really happened in the past about the hero Olivier. Much information was gleaned from the rumors of the residents, but the truth still needed to be clarified. Even the Archbishop had been killed while Shadow Garden was investigating this case. This Archbishop should have presided over the goddess trial the next day, but unfortunately, he had been killed by a mysterious person. The true stories about the hero Olivier can be found after the goddess trial event has succeeded in opening one of the 3 gates of the sacred land tomorrow. Before long, several other church officials came there, and they were surprised to see the Archbishop who had died horribly on a statue there. On the other hand, Sid is enjoying ice cream while imagining his Chunibyo story on top of a building to watch over the city area. Then he saw that someone suspicious was running somewhere. It turned out that he had killed the Archbishop. Seeing this, Sid immediately chased and fought him using only an ice cream spoon. It turns out that Epsilon is also there and is chasing the person. Then Sid asked about the preparation of the plans that the Shadow Garden members had drawn up. Epsilon answered by shaking her boobs. This man had already killed the Archbishop, so Shadow Garden would use another plan written in Beta's book. All members are ready and just waiting for orders from Shadow tomorrow. After hearing that, Sid immediately went to the inn that Rose had prepared. Sid knows Epsilon's biggest secret. Epsilon is a girl who has magic and a high level of pride. So, she risked all her magical abilities to beautify her body and boobs. But still, those were just piles of slime, which would never change the fact that Epsilon had the size of a loli.
プライドの高さは彼女の持ったスライムの量を見ればわかる